It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Georgia Southern head track and field coach, Coach Kelly Carter. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into college coaching in track and field?
It's kind of funny. I kind of look back at some of the articles that were written when I was running track in high school. And I think it's always something that I've enjoyed with working with people and talking with people. And I actually said I'd like to be a coach one day, but that just wasn't the first path that I made. And so I actually went to school, finished up, and then I worked in the private sector for a while, and then decided to go back to Auburn in 1998. And that's when I found a love, because I coached little kids, but then I got into the college things working with Coach Spry and Coach Rosen, and it just kind of blossomed from there. And it's just been a blessing for me.
What was your time like going to Auburn on the track and field team?
Well, I loved my time at Auburn. I had a wonderful experience. It was a real team camaraderie. Still to this day, I'm really, really close with a lot of my teammates. We still talk, we still laugh and joke. I actually married, my wife is the former Angie Johnson, and she actually was on the track team. So she's Angie Carter now, 30 years married, and we actually were on the track team together. So there were 7 couples that got married off of that team during the time I was there. So I can say that our team was probably really close.
That's so amazing. What were some of your accomplishments during your time at Auburn playing in the SEC?
My accomplishments was, I guess my freshman year, I went to the Olympic trials. I was the world junior champion in Sudbury, Canada. So I ended up being number 1 in the world. I broke the Olympic junior world championship record. I won Penn relays. I was a 3-time All-American. I was an SEC champion. I got 3rd at NCs, and so I actually walked across the line. It was pretty bad, and my whole experience from the time that I was a freshman all the way through has been wonderful. So running, and then I ended up getting hurt my senior year, and not getting able to accomplish what I wanted to in terms of winning the SEC. I mean, winning the NCAAs, but the whole time at Auburn was just wonderful.
What was that experience like of going to the Olympic trials during your college time?
It was nerve-wracking at first, because I was 18, 19 years old, and I actually got a chance to run against my hero in Edwin Moses, and I actually was in his heat, and so it was a wonderful experience, but it was nerve-wracking at the same time, just because of my age. And so I got a chance to see some wonderful performances. That was actually the time when Florence Griffith-Joyner actually broke the world record in Indianapolis, and I got a chance to see it firsthand.
What was it like coming back to your alma mater to get started in your college coaching as a volunteer assistant?
It was great. Coach Ralph Spry gave me the opportunity to come back. When I left Auburn, I got married in college, and Angie and I decided to move, and I actually left college, with 7 classes left in my degree. And then I worked several years in the private sector, and decided to go back and finish with the support of my wife. And we were going to go back. So we all went back, and I just took my classes and finished up. And so from there, that 1 year, I was going to be finished in 1 year. And Coach Spry provided a way for me to have my schooling paid for, be on scholarship, and asked me to stay an extra year. And so I did that. And during those times, I got a chance to meet some great people, got a chance to really get my feet wet in coaching. And I mean, it really was the start of everything. And I got a chance to work side by side with my actual coach in Mel Rosen. And it was just a great experience for me. And it was a launching pad that helped build my career.
What was it like coming off of obviously going to your alma mater to coach to go to Tennessee Tech?
It was Tennessee State. And it was nerve-wracking, man. You get in your first position and everybody's looking at you. I always try to tell assistant coaches, everybody always thinks that they know what they're talking about or what they would have done or should have done. This is what the head coach should have done. What you don't realize until you become a head coach is every decision is yours. From what you eat to what you wear to where you go, you are the final word. And so you had to be ready for that as a head coach. You got to be ready for that responsibility that when something is said, everybody looks to you to see if that's it. And so you got to be ready for that experience. And so going into it and being the head coach at Tennessee State, it was a nerve-wracking experience, but it was a blessing. I really enjoyed my time. I spent, I guess, 10 and a half years there. And it was a chance, it was a growing opportunity, but it was a chance to work with some really great people in the administration, some really great athletes. And I ended up getting my master's from Tennessee State, so I'm an alum. And it was a wonderful experience. I guess growing up at Tennessee State, I guess you could say, in the coaching world.
Of course, what was that feeling like of obviously getting your first head coaching job, but then also going from being a head coach to assistant coach at Middle Tennessee State?
Well, it wasn't that much different. The head coach at Middle Tennessee State is Dean Hayes. And Dean Hayes, if nobody's ever looked him up, Dean Hayes has been at Middle Tennessee State. Well, I say had been because he just recently passed just a little while ago. And he was there 57 years. And so at the time I'd been there, I always tell people, Dean Hayes started at MTSU in 1965. And I was born in 1969. So I always tell people, he's been at that one school longer than I've been alive. And he actually happened to be my coach's, Mel Rosen, one of his best friends, one of his closest friends. And Coach Hayes' daughters also went to Auburn. So I went to school with Aaron and Kara. So I know them. And so I know you're saying going from head coach to assistant coach, it really wasn't a transition because, he gave me the opportunity to coach and I was doing the same thing. I have no problem working with somebody that I respect and love, as long as my voice is being heard. And so it wasn't that big a deal to move on.
How was it like, obviously, during your time at Middle Tennessee State to go to 14 national championships?
Well, we had 14 national championship qualifiers. And so we had some really, really great athletes. And so we always went to nationals every year. We had just great athletes. It was a great place to coach. It was a great place to recruit. It was easy to sell the school. It was easy to sell the program. And so we got a lot of great athletes. And when you have great athletes, being a coach is easy. You just put people in the right position and train them up and don't get them hurt. And a coach looks better when they have good athletes, if you want to be real.
Of course, what was that 2013 national championship like for you?
Oh, it was great. It was a chance to get a lot of people there and running. That was the year that we actually had really good athletes that competed well. And I think that was the year that we actually won conference as well. I think it was a magical year. We didn't win nationals or anything like that, but we had a really good showing. Had a really good showing of people. And so, it was special.
Of course, as you talked about getting into the contracting, what was it like obviously designing some of the tracks for the Paralympians?
Well, with the Paralympics, I actually worked with the Paralympics since I got at Tennessee State in 2000. I had a couple friends that all right. So I had friends who had worked with the Olympic Training Center, all right, at Chula Vista, and I've been involved in those the Olympic Training Committee and all that kind of stuff for years. And when I was at Tennessee State, there was one young man, his name is Ryan Fan, who was coming to Tennessee State, and it was shown on a video by it was actually Mike Greenberg Greeny from ESPN. When he was doing interviews, he came and interviewed Ryan because Ryan was missing his left leg since he was like 2 or 3 years old and was playing football and was about to transition and leave from football because he made the All-Stars in football. I know I'm telling a long story. All-Stars in football all the way and get ready to go to college. And so the Paralympic coach, his name is Brian Hoddle, the head Paralympic coach, saw that and called me and said that could you please meet with him and talk with him and see if it was something he would want to do, get into track and field. And so Ryan came to meet me at Tennessee State, and we met and hit it off, loved him to death. And so I trained him and put him a part of the team. He was what some people would consider disabled because he's missing his left leg, but we never trained that way. We just trained regular. And so I coached Ryan all the way to the Paralympic team to where in 2004, he made it to Athens and was a gold medalist in the 4x4 and a bronze medalist in the 400. And then I think he ran for a good 6 or 7 years. And so that's when my first experience with the Paralympics. And so I just coached him for a while. And then in 2007, the head coach of the Paralympic team, Troy Engel at that time, put me on the staff of the Rio Games. And so I went to Brazil with the Rio Games. I was on the staff. And I actually worked with the Paralympics. The last time I traveled them actually was 2015 when we went to Qatar World Championships. And so I've been on the staff for years and years. And now people will send me people that's had a disability, or I will try to get people to go to the training center to train and things like that. And so even now, show you full circle. So now I have a young man by the name of Adam Keel who's come in, and he's training with us. Even though Georgia Southern, where I'm at right now, is an all-women's school. I mean, not all-women's school, but we have an all-women's program. And, Adam comes and trains with us to prepare himself. He's trying to make the Paralympic team. And, he's missing a part of his leg. And to show you how full circle it is, Ryan Fan is actually his prosthesis. So Ryan actually built his leg for him. And so it's been crazy. I've been a part of Paralympics for a long time. And so it's just one of the passions that I have.
That's so amazing that you're involved in the U.S. Paralympic. Of course, what was it like getting the head coaching job at Georgia Southern?
It was a chance to get back to Georgia. I actually ran track in Decatur, Georgia at Southwest DeKalb High School. And so it was just an opportunity to get back into the state of Georgia. I worked well with Coach Hayes, and, we talked about it and the position came available. And when the position became available, it's just, it worked out. I mean, full disclosure, the way I found out about Georgia Southern was my daughter plays softball. And so I have a son and a daughter, and neither one of them wanted to run track because me and their mom was all Americans. They didn't want that pressure. So they used their talents in other sports. My son played basketball. and my daughter played softball. And so we were bringing her to Georgia Southern to show her it was too far away from home, because it was like 6 hours away from Tennessee, from where we lived in Tennessee. And we came to visit the place, and she fell in love with it. And it was really nice. My wife and I were like, this is a really beautiful place, you know, with no thoughts about it. Just like, it's a beautiful place. You know, you're going to have a great time. And, you know, they have a great tradition and, you know, a great structure and great culture. And so that was her it was her junior year in high school. Well, a full year later, she signed with them. And then 6 months after that, I received a phone call from one of the coaches that I recruit with that knows me really well. He's from Georgia. He's like, Coach Carter, the head coach at Georgia Southern just resigned. Would you please apply and come back to the state of Georgia? And I talked to my daughter, and I was like, would you mind if I applied? It was a really good school. It was a good opportunity. And she was like, no problem. I'd love to have you there at school with me. And so I applied, I got the job, and I literally started the job probably 2 months before she had to come down to go to college.
What was that like, obviously, having your daughter there with you while obviously you're starting your coaching career at Georgia Southern?
I mean, it was wonderful, but I let my daughter have her space. My daughter had her own, my kids are pretty independent, and I try to teach them how to be independent and try to teach them to have their own thoughts in their own lives. And so I was there for her, but I was never overbearing for her. And it's kind of funny because I really, from an apartment that I lived in, I could see her dorm for her first year, and I never told her where I lived. You know, my wife was working on her dissertation, so we were apart for like 9 months while she was getting her doctorate, and I was here, and Angie was back in Tennessee until she finished her dissertation. But so me and Haley were down here together, and I never told her where I lived. She never came by the apartment. I never told her anything about it. We would just go out to dinner sometimes, and then she would be like, Dad, can you come get me, or can we go out to eat? And I'm like, yeah, give me about 10 or 15 minutes to get across town. But I literally could see her dorm from my apartment. I never told her where I lived. So it was, she had a great time, and graduated, got her master's from here. So she's a double Eagle. And, you know, I think she had a great time, and I tried to provide that space for her so she could have her own college experience.
What are some of your accomplishments so far as the head coach at Georgia Southern?
I guess here I've had 4 all academic, you know, All-American years where, you know, we received a plaque because of our academics here. We've had numerous, I want to say like 30 or 40, you know, top 5 finishes in our conference championships. When I first got here, we had changed and we moved from one conference to the other. And we've had, you know, NCAA regional qualifiers and numerous school records. I mean, it's one of those things. I try to provide an area and a culture so that people can be successful in track and field in life. You know, I consider myself a life coach that happens to coach track and field. You know, that's just a vehicle we use to help people get better. And so the accomplishments are, you know, over a 90% graduation rate, some great school performances. And I always tell people, you know, we have great performances, and then we have lessons. And so that's kind of where we go from there.
Of course, can you talk about the culture that you've built for the women's track and field program?
I try to just be as real as possible. It's too important. You know, there's a lot of difficulties with people transitioning from high school to college. And every now and then, you know, they just need the covering to help them grow. You know, and I try to provide that for them. I try to be a stable, you know, a stable person in their life so that they can have that chance to develop and grow. And I told them one of the greatest things of my life and one of the greatest joys of my job is, you know, watching people develop and watching people grow. And so it's always funny that, you know, the freshman, sophomore person is a totally different person than the junior person. And the junior person is a totally different person than the senior person. And I am blessed and lucky to have an opportunity to watch all that development throughout their lives and help them navigate that trip. And I'm glad that they just give me a chance to be a small part of their life.
What does a typical game day for track and field and a track meet look like, and who are some of your competition that you face?
For track and field, people call it organized chaos. We really have 17 events, and some things are going on at the same time. There is no complete start and stop. There's a time when something starts, but there's events that last 10 seconds and there's events that last 20 minutes. And so it's a matter of putting people together, getting a collective group of people all on the same page to, you got individual performances that equal into a team goal. And so it's just a matter of putting people in the right position to be successful and giving that particular person what they need at that particular time for their particular event. So organized chaos is what it looks like. But we prepare throughout the week for that type of stuff. We actually, in talking about competition, we travel all over the world. I've worked in the SEC, I've worked at a historically Black college, I've worked at a mid-major. And the thing I tell people all the time, we school recruits, is we all go to the same nationals. And so Division I is Division I is Division I. It doesn't matter where you go to school. We all go to the same nationals. So it comes down to putting people in the right position and coaching them up to where they need to be. If everybody did the exact same thing, only one school would have all the national champions. And that doesn't change. Everything changes all the time. And so that's the spice of life. And we go all over the world to get people, and we travel all over the country to compete. And so we travel to Virginia, Texas, Louisiana, Florida. And so the competition changes because most of our meets, they'll have anywhere from, at the minimum, you'll have like 6 or 7 teams, and the max, I think the last meet we were there, they had 62 teams that were there. And it's just individualized, those types of things. So we go against Power 5 schools, and we go against NAIA Division III schools.
Of course, what is that like, obviously getting to compete against your alma mater like Auburn, and then also get to compete against some of your other schools like Georgia, South Carolina, Florida?
It's normal. It's not the same where you would, or say if you were like basketball or something like that, where you're just talking about a team sport. Track and field is one of those individual sports that, when you look at our last couple nationals, North Carolina A&T, a historically Black college, won the NCAA's 4x4. And you had people in the 200 that were winning. So it's not a matter of Power 5. And so I don't want to say it bad, but it's like going up against Auburn, their athlete could be just as good as my athlete. It's not like, I tell people don't get involved in the laundry. Everybody looks at the laundry of what they're wearing. So, that's just clothes. You got to get out there and compete and give it your all. And so, at any given time, it could be anybody's day, and it's an individual in performance. So the uniform they're wearing, to me, means nothing. I love my alma mater. I love Auburn to death. That is my school. All right. But I ain't got no problem handing them an L.
Of course, what does the recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to go into track and field?
Well, we personally, coaches go out and look for the best athlete they can for their particular school. If I could say anything to recruits, the way we look at things, the way coaches look at things, is generally they're going to look at their conference first. And so if you're interested in a university, and you're wondering whether your times fit with that university, I would say go look at their website. And there's a website we call TFRS, TFRRS. And it shows each and every conference and each and every school and the performances that happen. And so you can look at the top 10 of that particular school. So like we're in the Sun Belt Conference. And so I would probably look in the top 10 of my conference and see where someone ranks if they're near the top 10. And that would kind of determine whether you'd be successful in that conference. And so whereas someone who could help me in my conference may not necessarily help, say, Kentucky in the SEC, even that person was fast, just because of the performances that are happening. Whereas someone who might be able to help Embry-Riddle or Talladega University or something like that, they may be able to help them, but they might not be able to help me. And so it just depends on your level of how much you can help a university. And most coaches are gonna look through their conference standings. And so if a student athlete is interested in the recruiting process and how things are going to work, you have to forgive me, I see the sun come through, how those things are gonna work, I would say look at the conference standings first. And then that'll give you an idea of where you would place in that university. And that's how a coach is going to recruit. And then it just comes down to need and money and in-state and out-of-state and all that kind of stuff.
What does the official visit look like at Georgia Southern on the track and field side?
Well, what we do is we'll bring someone in and give them a tour of the university, show them our housing situations, show them our rooming situations, and show them that, you know, we consider ourselves a large scale, small field university. We have, 26,000 students or so, but it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel as large as it actually is. So we have the resources to provide for people, but the feeling is more family and more togetherness. And so for us, we just try to show them, what the university has to offer. I would tell any student athlete, there's so many different options and so many different choices. I would always tell a student athlete, don't ever look at what a university has to offer its student athletes, because we all take care of our student athletes. Always look at what a university has to offer its students, and then you'll see the love and care of that actual administration of that university. And then that will show you. And so we try to show that love and that cohesiveness that Georgia Southern brings to just students. And then so they can see that, this is what the university provides. I also I'll tell it to the time I'm done, is never look at at any given time at any given university you ever go to. All right. The most time that a prospective student athlete, a PSA, will spend with a coach is probably 4 hours, between meetings and practice and stuff like that. You'll spend 4 hours a day with that coach at the most. And if you're not happy with the other 20 hours of that day, it doesn't matter what your relationship was with that coach. So we try to show what life would be like as you move on, as you have, and how you can enjoy this university and see yourself at home.
Of course, what advice would you give prospective student athletes that are looking to go play college? And then what advice would you give to college athletes looking to go on to the Olympic level?
I would say just work hard. Everybody always tries to compare, but the difference in, say, high school and college is, in high school, generally you have like an 8-week training session. And in college, we have a 40-week training session. And that's just with sprinters. Distance runners are a little bit more. You got to realize that the hard work is going to come and it has to build. And so a lot of times people say we worked harder in high school than we did in college. Yeah, but the training regimen is longer. And so I have to keep you healthy. So there's certain things I have to work on. And there's certain development things that it takes your time, And so I would say going into college, have a open mind. Realize that it's going to be a long game that you're trying to do, and realize that you may had some success in high school, but if you want to continue to have success all the way through college, you may have to change your running angles or your running styles. And, there's different types of things that you have to work on to have sustainability in college. And it all comes down to, desire or drive and what you're really trying to accomplish. A college athlete tries to compare to a professional athlete, and it's just not the same, because a professional athlete doesn't have to go to class. They don't, their requirements and responsibilities are different than a college athlete's requirements and responsibilities. And so take each step and give the best you can at each step, be it high school, be it college, be it professional, trying to train for the Olympics, those types of things. You take each step and look and see what it takes to be successful at that level, and then go after it.
What advice would you give those future coaches looking to get started into the track and field? And then what advice would you give head coaches looking to get started?
Well, for people who are just trying to get started in, you're saying athletes, or you're saying
coaches?
Oh, coaches. Okay, coaches. I would say that with coaches, just learn your craft. Know what you're talking about. You can coach anybody and get you to believe in anybody if you're trying to grow a team, but you gotta know what you're talking about, and you got to build relationships. Our business is relationships. It's what we do. Being a head coach, sometimes it just gets lucky. And again, like I told you at the beginning of the podcast, or the show, is a lot of the things when it comes to being a head coach is just realizing that the buck stops with you, and realizing that your word is the one that stands, and being prepared for that, and dealing with that and owning up to that, having integrity, so that an athlete can believe in you. You have people's lives. You have people's lives in your hand. Really, because some training regimens, if it comes down to water and it comes down to this, you can actually injure an athlete pretty good, and if you don't know what you're talking about, you can hurt somebody. And so I'd say gain knowledge of what you're trying to do. Read up. Don't be afraid to be a lifelong learner. You don't know everything. An athlete doesn't mind if you say, I'm not sure, let's find it out together. They really don't. They just, you have to be pliable. So you got to be pliable and firm at the same time, or just be consistent. And so I happen to love my job, and I love what I do, and I love trying to help coaches and build coaches the best way I can. And so that'd be my advice.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with the Georgia Southern Track and Field program?
Well, our website is gseagles.com. You can look for our website. I guess social media. I'm not gigantic on social media. I do things, but for Instagram, I am I'm AU Track 1987. That's when I went to Auburn. So, and we have a website, we have Facebook, and for Twitter, I am Coach Carter at _ STW, which is Speed Training Works. And so I'm not hard to find.
Thank you again, Coach Kelly Carter, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Georgia Southern Women's Track and Field program.
Thank you, and good luck with your program as well.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Kelly Carter, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you very much.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.